And I'm back. Yes, sir. Budget oriented, 350, Target Master, goodwrench, 260 horsepower rated, 350 rebuild. Now we have the crankshaft installed, rear main seal, all that jazz. Fun little fact here about these motors. These are all built in Mexico. You'll hear the Hencho in Mexico blocks are better or stronger. I don't see it. Looking at the main webbing and other parts of the casting, they don't really look stronger to me. I'm not saying that they don't have some advantages, but I really don't see it. I think any 1020 early 350 block from the 70s is probably better or as good. I don't see any reason to search one of these out for this other than it being a 4-bolt, which that's kind of nice in a way. Ultimately, if you were going to go real high performance, I would bypass a factory block altogether, and I would get a Dart SHP block to start with. $1,500 to $1,800 for a block that's fully ready to rock and roll, and is way stronger. Much better way to go. A factory block easily handles over 500 horsepower naturally aspirated, and can handle more. And you can fill the block with cement. You can put billet caps on a 2-bolt block and have splayed caps and all that, but it gets expensive very quickly, especially when they have to machine the thrust for the billet cap. You can be well over $1,000 just in machine work to the block, and that's without balancing or other things involved. So, but for mild builds under 550 horsepower, a 4-bolt 350 block is fine, in my opinion. I wouldn't be trying to do that with 60 over blocks and things like that unless you've sonic tested the cylinder walls and they're plenty thick. Otherwise, you could run into some issues there. For the most part, 350 blocks are, they're decent. This one obviously is low horsepower. It's not going to be anything crazy. It's just kind of a mild, heavy-duty truck engine. It's really nothing special about it. It's a cast crank, stock rod, stock pistons, just doing some upgrades to make it better than it came from the factory. I guess you could call some of it blueprinting because I am going through measuring, making sure the clearances are correct, things like that. But I am not setting I'm not having it decked and setting the deck heights equal and doing all that. Didn't have time really or the money for it this time. I think so far in parts, bearings, camshaft I got on Craigslist. It was a cam and lifter kit I bought from a guy for $100. And then total bill for everything, including assembly lube, bearings, rings. I needed a bunch of little parts, including a balancer. I got a timing set coming. I think of about $330 in parts. And then it's just my time past that. I also upgraded to better valve springs for the heads. So that was an $80 kit through Summit. So I'm getting rid of the original rotators that they use for, it's a little bit better. These motors, I measured the clearance. You can run about 440, 450 lift cam. There's really no retainer to guide clearance left after that, so I would not push it. Really, I thought about getting a tool to machine the guides for a smaller guide diameter and to also give me more room for more lift. But really, these are just stock smog heads that I ported. There's nothing special to them other than that pretty horrible chamber design for, high performance use. So really keeping the compression low, keeping them mild is probably going to be my best bet. And this is not going to be a race motor or anything. Basically, I guess I'll show you guys how the crank turns. This is what you want. I'm using a pretty thick assembly lube, but you should be able to just take your hand and rotate it. It should rotate real nice. You shouldn't, if you have to put a wrench on it, that's not okay. That will not fly. If it does not turn nice, you have problems. Either you don't have the right bearing clearance, you don't have any thrust clearance, something's off. So on the crank install, what I did was I installed the number 5 cap first, and I did that so that I could tap the crankshaft fore and aft to set the thrust clearance, and then basically installed the rest of the main caps after getting everything cleaned up, lubed up, ready to go. On these, I do 30 foot-pounds, and I started the center out after I've dealt with the rear cap and everything. I do 30 foot-pounds, I do the inner bolts first, and then I do the outers, and then I go to 70 on the inner bolts and 65 on the outers, and then it's final torqued. And then I don't really do this anymore, but you can mark them with a paint pen, and just after you know that you've torqued that cap so you don't miss any bolts. You think that it wouldn't happen often, but I've seen it actually several times on main caps and connecting rods and heads. So it's just good to, there's nothing wrong with double checking your work. You can never know everything in this game. I've been doing this since I was almost a little kid, and I learn every single day from all kinds of different people, from different motors. I mean, I've literally spent my life learning how to do this, and the ins and outs, and then what works, what doesn't work, what's good, what's not. And then that's just for my personal build style. What I do might not be the best for someone else. This is just how I do it in a way I know that works. And I wanted to share some of the things I do, mainly because I see a lot of stuff that doesn't work. I see a lot of stuff that's not done, correctly or in a way that's going to work. And I have a lot of customers that spend a lot of money in some machine shops and other shops just to come and end up paying me to redo everything a second or third time, and then to finally get it right. And I want more people out there to get their money's worth and know what they're looking at. I hate seeing people get ripped off or think that, it gives a lot of shops a bad name. I'm not going to name anybody, but I know of a lot of places that are not doing the right thing by people. Either they're not doing the work or they're doing the work incorrectly because they're just trying to get a paycheck. And in my opinion, you got to be passionate about your work. You got to love what you do, and you got to put your love into your work. And if you do, you're going to create, a nice product, and you're going to give the customer what they want, and you're going to give them their money worth. And that's what I try to do. I'm not saying I'm the best. I'm not saying I'm the only one. God, no, there's a lot of really good guys out there, a lot of good shops. I just know how things need to be to work, and I enjoy it. This is not just my hobby, but it's my profession and my job. And I just want to share, a little bit of my life's work with other people, and making sure the right information gets out there. I might miss some things. I might not get everything right, but I try. And I'm always willing to learn. I have no problem taking criticism or anything else. Life's too short to be mad. Just have a good time and build some cool motors, and hopefully we could go turn some tires, and hopefully take some video of this thing all finished up. And if I can get it on the dyno, definitely be taking everybody along for a ride in that deal and showing how that all works. And if it's a lot of fun. But hopefully it works out good. And I got to fit the ring gap, and we're gonna do that next. Get the connecting rods and pistons ready to go in, and I've already measured the clearance. I'm sorry I don't have a video of that, but there is a couple things on the connecting rods that I do, like how I showed on the main caps, how I basically take the edge off the parting line so that the bearings don't get scraped and they install easy. I also take on the rod caps, and I will basically, a lot of these connecting rods, the caps, it's really hard to get the cap off, especially on rods that are fairly new. So what I'll do is underneath the nut on the rod cap itself, on the hole, I will bevel that little inside edge in the hole so that it's not sharp on both sides of the rod cap. And it's just little things like that. This little parting line here, no sharp edges. You could take it farther if you want, but you don't want to take off a bunch of material. You're just trying to get rid of the sharp edge. And then little fun fact about these crate motors, you see there's a B right here on the bottom of the piston, and then here's a B stamp on the block by the cylinder. So that's how they would tell, that's basically how the factory would tell that piston has a certain clearance. So their target clearance is, say, they want 2/1000 for that cylinder. So a B piston would be required for that cylinder. So this one has B's on every cylinder except for number 8. Number 8 cylinder is actually a C. So that's another reason you mark everything when you take it apart, because obviously C is probably a slightly larger piston diameter. Right? We're talking very small amounts, but it's enough to make a difference. So you want to make sure C goes back into C, number 8. So just little tips and tricks and things I've learned over the years and working on these. I don't build I've built a couple goodwrench crate motors, building them up to 350, 400 horsepower, pretty mild setups. And they always work out pretty good. It's not a bad running engine by any stretch. I wish I could have turned this one into a 383. I really think that's the hot ticket if you're going to do a 350 base block combination. I have a few out there with 500 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds of torque. And no, they don't have AFR cylinder heads. They'd like to make you believe that you need that for that, but you don't always have to have CNC ported heads to do that. But it does take nice heads. Anyways, just wanted to show you guys how the crankshaft turn, how the build's coming along. And yeah, let me know if there's anything you guys want to know or you want to see. I will continue making these videos and yeah, see where it goes.